Hey, it's Dorr with Tactical Hyve, and in today's video, we're going to be going over, picking the right gun for starting out, beginner guns, the do's and don'ts. Hey, today's video is brought to us by Vetter Holsters. If you have a pistol, you intend to carry it, to keep and bear arms. Obviously, the bear means to carry the thing. You're going to need a holster. Now, in my opinion, every pistol needs a holster. Go ahead and check out Vetter in the description below. They're made in the USA, and they can pretty much match you up with any major make, model, configuration you can think of. All right, guys, so today's video is about pistols for beginners, starting out, learning how to shoot. And I see time and time again in classes, on ranges, what have you, is people that don't know how to shoot are trying to learn on maybe a platform that isn't best suited for them. So I just wanted to give you guys just a little bit of guidance, some tips and tricks, whether you're starting out your journey with shooting or you're trying to help somebody else. Starting out, first one will be size matters. Oftentimes I see people showing up to classes where there's going to be a lot of shooting, there's going to be a lot of learning, we're trying to progress skill set, and they're doing it with a subcompact. If you know how to shoot and you're good to go with that subcompact, it really isn't an issue. But if it's a lower level class, if you're new to shooting and you're trying to learn new, more advanced skill sets, having a very small single stack pistol, like this 365, it's a great gun, it's great for carry, but I didn't learn to shoot on this thing. I learned to shoot on full-size handguns. So if you are going to, you want to carry this thing, this is the pistol for you and you want to learn, that's okay, but expect going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle. You're going to run into a few more snags because smaller guns are snappier. They've got less real estate. The more skin you can put on your firearm, the more accurate and consistent you're going to be. And it's just a little bit harder to teach people on, but something to be aware of. And it can get even worse than that. People don't generally show up to classes with wheel guns, but you'll see people trying to learn. I do recommend teaching people to shoot with revolvers, but this is a hammerless revolver. It doesn't have that double to single, single to double ability to go back and forth, cocking the hammer manually. So, just something to think about. And then again, the amount of real estate and the sight radius on smaller pistols is a much shorter and less forgiving. Also, to counter that, people with smaller hands tend to have a little bit of an issue with gripping big pistols that carry a ton of bullets with big, thick grips. This thing for average to large size hands is great to learn with, but you see people with smaller hands, they just can't quite manage it, if that's so to speak. It's just too big. It's like trying to do pull-ups on a bar that's just too wide. You can't quite get a good grip on it, and you'll start to see that. Single shots, going over the very bare bone basics, yeah, you could get away with that. But I'm talking about, as you're starting to step it up in your training with multi-shot engagements, etc., you don't want this thing slipping out of their hands. You don't want to have any issues like that. So if you have smaller hands, making sure if you're going to go with a larger frame pistol, that the girth, the width, the real estate as far as being able to wrap this, get your mitts on it, skin the smoke wagon properly. I've seen an issue from time to time. Up next, guys, it's the wrong caliber. And oftentimes you'll see the wrong size pistol paired up with even the wrong caliber. I had one young man come to a class recently. It was his first class, and it wasn't exactly a beginner class. It was more of an intermediate CCW defensive class. And he had a subcompact 45. And man, he was all over the place. That thing was whipping back and forth. It's making me nervous. I had him stick to single shots, but he made the most of it, and we got him where he needed to be. But had he shown up with a mid-size or even full-size, 9mm, a Glock 19, great universal piece, easy to find parts, easy to find ammo, easy to find mags. They're relatively cheap. But, I think something close to this would be the good do-all universal. I'm learning how to shoot. I'm training. I can put this thing into use as needed, if the day comes. If you don't like 9mm, okay. I'm just here to tell you what's going to be the easiest, fastest, best bang for your buck way to learn. But, 5.7s. 5.7s have very little recoil, great capacity. They're not really all that more expensive than their 9mm counterparts, but sometimes ammunition can be harder to find. It tends to be a little bit more expensive, but these things are great. They have very low recoil. This one's got a great trigger. This is the new one from Smith & Wesson. It's got a great trigger on it. Comes cut for a red dot. which is getting to be more and more common. As far as red dots go, yes, they're great. And, you definitely can learn how to use them, but they break, they wear out, the batteries die, they get obstructed, etc. Iron sights always work. They're always on there. And, if you are starting out, I highly recommend being proficient with iron sights just because they're they're pretty much on the gun as far as pistols go. Like 100% of the time, there are exceptions, obviously, but we're talking, north of 98% of the time they're going to be on there. So I have run into people that just want to start out and go straight to red dot. And, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but there's no reason not to be functionally competent with iron sights. And I highly recommend that. But, again, to each their own. Next up, guys, it's going Gucci early. And what I mean by that is you're brand new to shooting. You don't quite know how to shoot yet. You might understand the very bare bone basics, but, as you start progressing up in, either the sports side, the tactical side, the defensive side, whatever you want to call it, things get much more demanding. And if you skip straight to the Gucci stuff, triggers, red dots, etc., on pistols or even rifles, in the event you need to pick up something that isn't Gucci, that's more commonly found out in the world with a standard trigger, iron sights, etc., having to go back down the technological ladder, down a few rungs and try to use something that isn't as awesome and Gucci as what you're used to can bite you in the butt. So learning how to use something that I would say is more middle rung, bare bones basic, again, like a stock, be it a striker fire gun or a double to single older Super 9, something like that. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. If you want to have the super Gucci stuff, great, that's awesome. But if you are a 2011 guy and all you know how to do is rock 2011s, man, you better have a functioning 2011 around all the time to make sure you can maximize your ability, but it's just not practical. They're not around, they're not everywhere. And, past the leisure, hobby, sports side, if you intend to be in an environment or God forbid, find yourself in one where you need to use this stuff for defensive purposes, you better be able to pick up whatever's laying around. You better be able to figure out, function check, and employ whatever there is, because that does happen. The best shooters are the most versatile shooters, and it's not the gun, it's them, and they know that. And they know that they should be able to bring their skill set to bear with any firearm whatsoever. So, that's just my take on the Gucci stuff. Of course, have the Gucci stuff. Gucci stuff is great, but having that solid foundation with the more basic stuff. I'm not saying buy cheap crap or anything like that. Stick with the name brands. But, just having that baseline, and I highly recommend. All right, guys, and finally, I just want to put an emphasis on the importance of training. Making up your mind early on of exactly what you want. Maybe it was a movie, that's what John Wick carries, that's what I got to carry. That's all well and great, but whatever you're going to go with, you got to train. And the more you train and the more comfortable you become and the more you want to learn, you may very well find that your preferences have changed as well. So spending a ton of money up front before you've really figured out what you like and what you don't like, because yes, aesthetics is important. Pretty guns are nice to have. Some people go way into the weeds with custom paint jobs and all kinds of crazy stuff, and that's cool. But it all comes down to, how does that gun feel in the hand? How does it feel while you're shooting it? And what makes you more effective? So keep that in mind before you go spending a ton of money. Just my 2 cents, if you stick with the big brands, that a lot of law enforcement agencies use, militaries use, those are going to be reliable. They have to be. And finding a very wide variety of aftermarket parts and, different ways to configure whatever platform you go with is going to be easier. You start getting into more of the niche, smaller brands that, there's a lot of great ones out there, of course, but the bigger brands, I'm not here to plug anybody in particular, but SIG is huge, Glock is huge, Smith & Wesson is huge, and they're used all over the place. They have been for a very long time. And then you start getting into some of the smaller companies. It's just, there's going to be a narrower pot to pick from as far as holsters and mag pouches and all that stuff. So something else to think about. If you haven't quite made your mind up, if you're still new to shooting, that experience is going to make your mind up. If that makes sense. You're going to have preferences. It's just the way it is. Certain shoes, make, model, type of footwear feel different to different people. Some people have brand loyalty with footwear. Why? Because it's more comfortable. The more comfortable you are, the more effective you're going to be in your day-to-day or playing a sport or whatever activity it is. And especially with pistols, I find that to be very much so the same. Longer guns, you know, ARs are all the same. You know, just how much money you want to spend and how easy on yourself do you want to make it at taking those more difficult shots. But again, guys, that's just me. I just wanted to make this quick video because it's something that I see consistently, and I have little talks with people offline, you know, at classes, etc. So anyway, thanks for being here. This is Dorr of Tactical Hyve, out.